Well, welcome to A Little Bit More. And this is kind of strange because I'm on the other side of the mic, I guess, the other side of the room.
Suck it, nerd.
Yeah, exactly. So this is Connor. And if you don't know Connor, mobilization, young adult. And honestly, it was refreshing for me, Connor, on Sunday just to be able to sit in the pews and the chairs and to be a part of the body in a different way. And so thank you so much for leading us well and for what you do. And there's so many different facets on staff I don't think people necessarily know, but it's one of the main reasons I call myself one of the pastors, because there's so many facets about Grable that happen off the stage that people don't know. But I love it when there's moments where we get to see what's God doing in your heart and how he's molding and shaping you. And so I would love to hear a little bit more. Like, I love what you had to say Sunday, but is there a little bit more of why are you bringing us into this conversation of rest?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of it more, really. But what I really wanted to drive home on Sunday is that Sabbath is more than just like one of those Jewish traditions that we read about in Scripture, and that, like we don't celebrate Pentecost. We don't really celebrate Passover the same way. We sort of do when we take communion, but in a different sense. There's all these different traditions, Sabbath year, the year of Jubilee, different traditions like this that have just kind of gotten lost and changed and reshaped over time. And Sabbath, I think, is one of those things that like we know is in the Bible, but we treat it in the same way, where it's one of these traditions that we don't really need. It's not that big of a deal. It's, take it or leave it. A lot of people, especially in our culture, see it as lazy. And so what I really wanted to drive home on Sunday is that there's a really serious sickness in all of us. And Sabbath teaches us, it trains our immune system to resist that sickness. And we'll drive that home more next week. But really what I wanted to focus on this past Sunday was just drive home the idea that there's something wrong in our hearts.
So from a pastoral standpoint, and maybe it's both, but is it more of a lack of education or a lack of discipline when it comes to Sabbath? Like, is there, if you had to diagnose it, like, why is it that we don't lean into Sabbath? Is it a lack of discipline? Is it a lack of education? Probably both, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
How do you begin to pick that apart? Because really, you didn't really tell us how to implement. It's like, why are we even talking about this in the first place, right? So maybe teeter off that just a little bit, the education versus discipline. Like, how does that play out?
Yeah, you're right. It is both. You can be educated, you can know what Sabbath is, you can know all the right answers, but you cannot be disciplined enough to actually do it.
Sure.
Or your schedules just may not allow it to implement all the different things are true about this practice, this discipline. And so there's work that needs to be done in both areas. But there's also a lot of people who this is new. This is a new conversation. A lot of people associate Sabbath with Sunday. You go to church and I'm Sabbathing at church. And that's not necessarily wrong, but it kind of misses the heart of what this discipline is too. So it's both and. Yeah, I'd like to see us learn more about what this is, so that we can practice slowly implementing new disciplines.
Right. It's maybe partly how we've been brought up too. We have a lack of education when it comes to Jewish Hebrew tradition. And in some ways, like, we don't really need to know, right? That's what we tell ourselves. So it's just, we don't see a lot of that in the New Testament, but it's part of our heritage. It's part of God's design. Share a little bit more of what you wish you could have shared on Sunday.
Yeah.
Because you packed a lot in.
We did. Yeah, we did. And we really were just in two stories. We were in Genesis 4 and Genesis 11, looking at a story of two different cities, the city of Cain and the city of Babylon. I'd like to just show you the threads we started pulling in those two stories run through the whole introduction of the Bible. So Genesis is split up into two main literary movements. The first one is Genesis 1 through 11, and the second is 12 through 50. So 1 through 11, that's like the most important literary movement in the whole Bible, because it's the context and the birthplace for all these different ideas and themes that run through the whole rest of the Bible, and it shapes how we understand the life and ministry of Jesus. It's a really important 11 chapters, and it's split up into 5 micro movements, 5 stories. Some people split it up into 6. I'd argue 5 is sufficient. So it's the creation narrative. So that's Genesis 1. God created the heavens and the earth, which is what we're going to study next week. We're going to be in Genesis 1. The second is the Eden narrative. So that's Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. That's the fall. So that's Genesis 2 and 3. The third is the story of Cain and Abel in Cain's city. So we looked at that this past Sunday. Some of it, at least the back end of it. Number 4 is the flood narrative, the great flood, Noah's Ark. That's Genesis 6 through 9. And then the 5th and final one is there's 2 stories of the origins of Babylon. The story of Nimrod in Genesis 10 and the story of the Tower of Babel in Genesis 11.
Yeah, and you were telling the staff kind of the definition of Nimrod.
Yeah.
Can you just kind of flesh that? Because I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah, it means we will rebel. That's what his name means.
Yeah.
So it hits a little different for a Hebrew reader than it does.
Yeah,
for
calling
us.
someone Nimrod or something is like it's a vastly different understanding. and
that
concept.
Dude, he was portrayed as this like giant warrior hunter.
Yeah,
he was the first king in the Bible, and he's the founder of like all these horrible, like literally every nation and city and empire that gave Israel trouble for the entire biblical narrative is attributed to Nimrod in Genesis 10. He's a bad dude.
Yeah.
But we just kind of, I guess we don't really throw that word around anymore.
No, we don't name our kids that. I mean, that's not usually on the short list of baby names.
No.
Yeah.
I haven't heard that.
Wouldn't encourage that.
No. But yeah, so those 5 stories compose the introduction to the Bible. The whole biblical narrative is born out of those 5 stories. And so we started to pick up these threads, and I want to just kind of trace them through all 5 stories, really through the last 4, actually. Genesis 1, the problem doesn't arrive in Genesis 1. It doesn't come until the second narrative. And we'll talk more about that next week. So the problem we see in the garden, Adam and Eve are told, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Don't take knowing right and wrong. That's a good thing. You should want that. But what's implicit, God wants to give it to them. He wants to give that to them on his own terms. But what they do is they are deceived into taking it on their terms. Yeah. And they distort it. Yeah. So they're exiled from the garden.
And you talk about, we talk about scripture being a meta-narrative all the time. We are not the owner.
Correct.
Yet the enemy, whatever you want to describe that picture as, tries to convince us that we are the owner, that you can control this narrative, that you're going to be better off if you are God. That is the convincing story from the very beginning. Yeah. Right?
We make a lousy judge.
Yes, we do.
Really lousy.
Yeah.
So that's where it starts. That's the little seed in Genesis 1 through 11 of something's off from this point on. And then Adam and Eve, outside of the Garden of Eden, but inside of the region of Eden, they have 2 sons, Cain and Abel. They're offering sacrifices at the gate of Eden, making offerings at the gate of Eden, because that's as close to the presence of God as they can get, is the gate to the garden. And God favors Abel's offering over Cain's, and so Cain is deceived into believing that there's not enough blessing to go around, and so he kills his brother. He takes that blessing on his own terms. Instead of waiting to receive it from God or from his brother, he decides, I'm going to take this. There's not enough for both of us.
Right. And once again, it goes all the way through. We have this scarcity mindset. It's why oftentimes we can't be generous because we're not good stewards, because we don't know the owner, and we have a scarcity mindset. It's the fear that begins to kind of suffocate us, right? Yeah.
And I think that's where we're heading. As we follow that thread through the introduction. So Cain kills his brother. God exiles him even further from the garden. He says, you have to leave the region of Eden.
Yeah.
And Cain pleads with God. He says, that punishment doesn't fit the crime because whoever finds me out there is going to kill me. But that's what he did.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
That's bar for
Right,
bar.
right.
Justice.
Right. Yeah.
And so he pleads with God. And so God says, he doesn't say what I just said. God's more merciful than me. He promises Cain, I'm going to protect you. He offers Cain a sign, and he says, anyone who kills you will be avenged 7 times over. That's the promise he makes to Cain. A lot of debate over what the sign is. Some people translate it to mark, which is to associate it with the mark in Revelation. That's wrong.
Yeah.
That's not the word in Hebrew. It's the word sign.
Yeah.
There's 2 different words. I've been convinced of the argument that the sign that God was going to give Cain was a city.
Oh, yeah.
And that's because in Numbers, so just a little bit later in the narrative, God gives this really obscure command. Not very many people are familiar with it. It says, anyone who kills another person, whether on purpose or by accident, is to be given a city. They're going to be put into a city to protect them from being killed before their trial, so that whoever finds you will not kill you. So that God doesn't want people accused of murder and then murdered before a fair trial can take place.
Because we serve a just God, right?
Exactly.
He wants to make sure that it's a just trial.
Exactly. A just and
it's actually a
God.
really beautiful narrative.
It is, yeah. And that's exactly, all that language is stolen from Cain's story.
Yeah, sure.
So these stories, this command is linked to Cain's story. So I've been convinced of the argument that...
It's a great argument, yeah.
Yeah.
And how we distort it over and over.
Oh,
we
my
distort
word,
it.
Yeah, exactly. So God promises Cain a city, a wall around his family, his home, because that's one of the main. We talked about that on Sunday. It's one of the main distinctions of a city in the Bible is a city has a wall. So he's promised a wall to protect him, and vengeance to anyone who strikes him down. God says, "I'm going to protect you despite the horrible thing you did. I'm going to continue to stand by you because I made this promise to your family." And so what Cain does then is, first thing after leaving Eden, he meets a woman, gets married, has a baby, and builds a city. It's the first thing he does, is he says, I don't trust you, God, to protect me like you said you would. I'm going to do that myself. I'm going to build my own wall and take care of myself. So he's taking on his own terms what God said he'd do for him. This is literally, we're seeing the same thing from Genesis 3, when Adam and Eve ate the fruit. It's the same thing. We'll just trace it through the whole narrative. So fast forward. Cain's city turns into, it's a disaster. A few generations down, Lamech, whose name means, it's the word king backwards in Hebrew, so he's portrayed as a backwards version of what Adam was supposed to be in the garden. Takes 2 wives, sets a nasty trend that leads into the Great Flood. So, we're skipping some details here, but you get the idea. God decides in the Great Flood, he sees the condition of the human heart. He sees the condition of the world that it's as it is, and his heart is broken. He's not angry.
Yeah.
The first time God gets angry is Exodus chapter 3, when Moses is
fighting. They have that little Moses and him have that little conversation. Yeah.
So he's not angry.
Yeah.
The word heartbroken in English originates from this story. This is where the word heartbroken comes from.
Yeah, when you're passionate about something and you're heartbroken, oftentimes it does reflect anger, right?
Yeah,
it looks like it, but they're vastly different.
Right. But all God is doing is he's conceding. He's saying this is the natural, what happens if this continues is the world is decreated.
Yeah.
And so he speeds it up. And he closes in the waters. He separates in day one.
It's perverse. We've perverted God's plan for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but first, he chooses a family, Noah, who comes from the line of Seth, who's the 3rd son of Adam and Eve. Noah's name means rest. Rest and Noah are the same word in Hebrew. It's not an insignificant detail. It is rest that's preserved in the flood.
Yeah.
And so a little micro Eden is created. Rest creates it under the instruction of God. And when God closes the world in and closes in the waters, the chaos waters fill the earth, and the little micro Eden floats, and life is preserved in the chaos waters. It's a little picture of the Garden of Eden floating amidst the chaotic wilderness. So floods recede. Noah's Ark, the little micro Eden, lands on a mountain, and Noah's family plants a little garden on the mountain. They start offering sacrifices, and it's the Garden of Eden 2.0 on the mountaintop. And what happens is, so Noah's got 3 sons. One of them, his name is Ham. Also a good suggestion, don't name your children Ham.
For multiple reasons.
more than just for this reason.
Yeah.
Because it's a silly name. It's funny, but
Yeah.
it's not in Hebrew. So Ham, Noah gets drunk. All right. He gets drunk.
This is not in the flannel graph version.
No.
Yeah.
This is a really ugly story.
Yeah.
And what the text says is that Ham gazed on his father's nakedness.
Yeah.
Which is a combination of both a Hebrew idiom and a euphemism.
Yeah.
So it's 2 things combined. Basically, what it means is he took advantage of his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the short version.
I remember reading this in high school and be like, I didn't learn that in Sunday school.
No.
It's just, I was like, man, this narrative is way darker
it's horrible.
than I was taught.
It's horrible.
Yep.
And then he goes out to brag to his brothers.
Yes.
So it's a power move.
Yeah, exactly.
Ham wants to be the sole ruler in the second Eden.
Yeah.
And so he makes this grab. If Noah's the ruler, I'm going to take his wife from him.
Yeah.
If my father's the ruler, I'm taking my mother so that I can be the ruler in this new Eden, the sole ruler. Because there's not enough. There's not enough authority to go around. There's not enough abundance to go around. So I'm going to dictate who gets what and how. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
The whole narrative, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
So Ham gets cursed. His grandson, that's Nimrod. Nimrod is the grandson of Ham. He's this giant warrior king. He's connected in the narrative to Cain, to Lamech, to the Nephilim, the sons of Elohim. He's just a nasty dude associated with the formation of every major empire and city and nation that gave Israel trouble through the whole Bible. He's an archetype for evil kings, is Nimrod. He builds Babylon. He's associated. Nimrod did it. That's the first origin story for Babylon. And the second is the Tower of Babel. So Babylon means gate of the gods. Babel means confusion. And so that's probably the only time in the Bible that the wordplay works in English like it works in Hebrew.
Sure. Oftentimes it does not.
And I think we probably get the word Babel in English from that story. That's probably the only reason why it works.
Sure. Yeah.
If I had to guess.
Yeah.
But we see that, again, it's the same thing in Genesis 11 as it is all the rest of the narrative. It's people trying to do something good and right. They're trying to create a heaven on earth place by cooperating together like the church is supposed to. But they're doing it on their own terms, for their own glory, their own gain, their own benefit. And they build a wall around it. They built a city around their tower so that they could keep it to themselves and be the gatekeepers of it.
Right. Once again, it goes back to the scarcity versus generous mindset. You cannot be generous if you don't know the owner.
Exactly.
And for them, they had this scarcity mindset that we must protect.
Exactly. Yeah.
And man, I'm so glad in 2025 we're so much better. Right? It's just we build the similar walls because we're afraid that God may not show up, that God isn't going to. But what'd you call these micro narratives?
Micro narratives, yeah. Micro movements.
Micro movements. I love that because like each detail. I mean, one, you have an incredible mind that can remember these things. But for someone listening to this, they're maybe like, okay, well, what's the big deal about all these? It's the consistency of God.
Yeah.
And because there's consistency, we can trust that. And because we can trust that, we have trust in his faithfulness, not our own faith. Once again, if it was our own faith, we would have trust in the walls and the scarcity in which we can build. It's his faithfulness. And so, I mean, first of all, thank you for having the passion to do this, because some of them will be like, why are these details matter? It's any of the details by themselves don't necessarily matter.
Right.
It's the consistency of these micro things. I love that you call them micro, because it is by themselves. It's like, oh, it's just a piece. But you put all the pieces together, you're like, we have the most consistent, loving, compassionate God who continues to pursue us even through our stupidity.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So sorry. I had to say
good.
that. So kind of finish the narrative for us. I want to make sure you get all through the different sections here.
So the point I'm making is that this isn't just a Cain problem.
Oh yeah.
It's a Connor problem. It's a Kevin problem.
Yep.
Like it's a human problem.
Yeah.
We're afraid that there isn't enough to go around. We're afraid that God isn't good enough, that he's not going to provide. And that fear drives us to work ourselves to death at our own deficit, at the deficit of others, of the people around us. We build these walls. We protect what we think we own, even though we're not the owner. And it makes us tired. We're chronically fatigued. It makes us anxious and worried. It makes us distracted. We miss out on what God has for us. So it's just the fruit of this is ugly. Yeah. This is the root. The tree is work and work and work to, our own expense and at the expense of others. And the fruit is worry and anxiety and exhaustion and chronic fatigue. That's the fruit from this tree. So what I'm going to go on to try and help us see next week is that there is a way of living that the very first story, before the problem is even identified in the Bible, the solution's presented, and that's Sabbath, rest. It's rest that's preserved in the flood. It's rest that's demonstrated when God teaches us what it means to live in the new creation. He rests. So that's where I'm heading with this.
And it's absolutely beautiful. I mean, to think through these things, that rest or Sabbath is a tool that leads us to the treasure.
Yeah.
And sometimes we use the treasure as a tool, and when we flip those things, it creates all this distortion, right? So work in itself is not bad.
No.
But it's when we create all these blisters, and that's what we worship is work, is the problem.
Yeah.
We no longer see work as a tool. We begin to see it as the treasure. And now we become workaholics, right?
Exactly.
Work is a tool that can help us worship the owner, the king, right? And so it's a little bit off, but AI has become this big thing that we keep talking about. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it evil? Whatever those things. And I go, here's the deal. AI is a tool. It's a tool. Just like Google became a tool, all these things became tools. It's when we make a tool a treasure that's distorted, right?
Right.
This thing is a treasure. God's word is a treasure. But if we use it just as a tool, we miss it. It's living, it's active, right? And so that's why I love your deep study, your understanding, is because you see it as a treasure. And it encourages me to see it as a treasure, not just as a tool. And so making that distinction for us is very helpful. Man, we have misused our tools.
Yeah.
And we don't see the treasure. God coming in the flesh, God dying for us, resurrection, the ascension, that's a treasure. And sometimes we see it as a tool.
Right.
It's my ticket out of hell.
Yeah, right.
No, don't use it as a tool. See it as a treasure. See it as a relationship. So Connor, thank you. I'm really looking forward to the next week and helping us see how this tool can lead us to a treasure.
Of course. Yeah, this has been really helpful for me. Yeah. And so I hope that it's helpful for you as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, we'll see you guys next week. This has been a little bit more. You guys have a great week.